Trixie, I think you told our producer earlier before we started the show that you, and I didn't realize this, you actually got the name Trixie from your stepdad who used to call you Trixie, but like in a kind of to put you down.
Yeah, so it's kind of an older term, but like Trixie, you would, it's like a way of calling someone a faggot. It's that whenever I was acting too emotional or too feminine, it'd be like, stop crying, you're like a little Trixie. I would get made fun of for being sort of like sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it's like anytime abuse of some kind or something shook me, I'm crying, and then I'd be called a Trixie. So it's crazy because it used to be a word that was kind of as bad as any slur to me. And now it's like, that's the word that's put clothes on my back now. For like
Elasticity.
Yeah.
It's a good thing he didn't call you cocksucker, because then you would have been cocksucker in the past.
Well, cocksucker, I still get called that, don't worry. But only because I ask people to call me that.
I want to talk to you
Sorry, I just
quickly
wanted to say on that note too, because
Okay, go
I
ahead.
think that's, just as an example of how you're able to take something that was used, against you or abusively, and you can kind of turn it into something then that is a positive thing for you. You're the one who takes control over that, empowerment from that, and then be able to rewrite your story through Trixie specifically.
When you talked about standing, because you talked earlier about your fans and how you said the people who are attracted to Trixie have experienced a certain amount of abuse or trauma. When you talked about holding the doll in the store as a child and that world not being open to you because of your gender and because you would have been made fun of, it's like so much of what Trixie does lets people live out those fantasies. You demonstrate toys on your YouTube channel. You play with easy bake ovens and everything. Do you hear a lot of it's like you're championing that kid from the past. Like you didn't get that when you were a kid and now you're getting that now. And that's deliberate, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, especially even being, from a household that was half white, half Native American, Trixie also, it's not on accident that she represents the most inflated version of Americanized Caucasian beauty, too. She appears to be rich, blonde, white. In Trixie's world, she's straight. You know what I mean? That's a straight woman. She really, to me, it's like the perfect life in a way. And so when I talk about people's trauma, it's like, I think people can tell that for me, this instrument, this is my Elvira, this is my Pee-wee. This for me was made as, I think, it's sort of like, you're supposed to go in the world and have your chosen family. You're supposed to build the life you want. And really through Trixie, I've gotten to any girl toy I ever wanted, I used to be not allowed to wear pink.
Yeah.
Every inch of my house is pink. Everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think you could look at that as like, wow, that person was hurt really young and can't get over it. But I think of it as like, I really have just chosen to have the life I always wanted through Trixie.
Yeah.
And I think that inspires people, even if they hate the color pink.
It is inspiring, and it is somebody who was, hurt when they were really young and who actually is getting through it and who has been able to get through it through something like this. I mean, even just what you were describing, being able to create this character that you can give all the things that you maybe ever wanted is something we call reparenting. So that's actually something that is really healing for some of the traumas that we can experience. And you're doing that in a very kind of conscious and active way too. So very helpful.
Matthew, is there anything that you weren't allowed to do as a kid that you let yourself do now besides have sex with men?
Well, that's the biggest one. That's the biggest one.
He did that as a kid. He did that a lot as a kid.
Yeah. No, as a way of reparenting yourself.
Yeah, I would say two things. Is just one that that there really wasn't. I didn't come from a family that was very emotional or talked about like too much in kind of like deep, rich emotional ways. So that's kind of why I do what I do, and also why I try to put that out there for anybody else who might not have that. And then yeah, absolutely, just being gay and not being able to talk about those things. So I do gay therapy, and it hits both notes.
Talking about elasticity, like I've learned, growing up, someone will be like, I'd have a friend in high school who was like wrecked because her dad yelled at her. And, on the inside, I'm like, give me a break, Mary. Like,
yeah,
yelled at you. That's it.
Right.
And I guess that's when I started to realize it's never like the trauma Olympics. It's never the whose situation is worse, because speaking to elasticity, some people don't bounce back the same as other people. And some people maybe don't have the tools or the outlets to sort of like let things pour over in a way that works for them. And for me, I really just think I've lucked out. Like, I'm probably a little pricklier than most people. I'm a little harder to get close to maybe, but I think I am lucky that I I think elasticity is a good word because you can acknowledge times you were stretched or like
Yeah.
that was a tight, but you can also acknowledge that you can bounce back. It goes both ways. It's not about putting a blind spot in your life to everything bad that ever happened to you.
Yeah.
It's about almost like the universe being big and everyone's problems being real and being hurt or something bad happened to you. It's not even unique. It's sort of what bonds us all together.